My name is Ann Smart, and I'm a high school science teacher from New Orleans, Louisiana. And today we're going to talk about essential elements, elements that are essential to both plant and animal life. Essential means that they're necessary. Elements are the building blocks of all of matter. They are the materials that make up everything in the world. So the first thing to consider is, which elements do you know that animals need or that humans need to take in from their environment in order to stay healthy? Take a look at the periodic table and see if you can see some familiar elements that you know we need to take in.
Which elements do you think humans require to survive?
Which elements did you choose as essential elements for humans? Most people know that we need oxygen. We got that from the air that we breathe. Did you know that all of these highlighted elements are considered essential elements for humans? And how do we get these elements into our body? Well, some of them come in from the air that we breathe, oxygen, some from the water that we drink, hydrogen and oxygen, but the majority of these elements come from the food that we eat. And the food that we eat is either plant material or an animal that ate the plant material, and most of our plants grow in the soil.
So what about plants? Do plants need to take in food also? It might surprise you to know that the plants need to take in essential elements just like animals do. We know that plants can produce their own food through photosynthesis, but it might surprise you to know that plants need essential elements as well. An essential element for a plant is required for a plant to complete its life cycle. It cannot be replaced by any other element. It's directly involved in the plant's metabolism, and it's required by many different plants. So at this time, take a look at your periodic table and see if you can identify essential elements for plants, elements that plants would need to take in through the soil.
Now, which elements do you think plants require to thrive?
There are 17 essential elements that are required for plants to be healthy, and they are the ones highlighted on the periodic table. But as you can see, the blue elements N, P, and K are highlighted separately from the rest because these are the three macronutrients, the nutrients that the plants need in the highest quantities in order to stay healthy.
Which of these 17 essential elements do you think plants can get from the air, from water, or from the soil? It probably won't surprise you to know that very few elements enter a plant by way of the air or the water. That since a plant grows in the soil, it receives most of its essential elements through the soil.
Humans get some essential elements through the air and water, just as plants do, like hydrogen and oxygen. But we get most essential nutrients through the food that we eat. At this time, you will need a nutrition label. If your teacher hasn't yet provided one, grab one from your pantry or do a Google search for a food label.
The food label may have some of the essential elements listed on it, but most of the ingredients in our food are listed as compounds. So you're going to have to do a little search to find out what elements make up the compounds in the foods.
You should create a data table like the one shown here. On this data table, you will list 3 of the ingredients that are listed in your food label. Once you have determined which ingredients those are, then you will have to look up online the chemical formula for each ingredient. And then finally, from the chemical formula, you should be able to identify if those are essential elements.
From this activity, you should have seen that the nutrition label includes data about elements, such as calcium, iron, zinc, manganese, and so forth. You'll see that the food ingredients are the source of the major elements that both plants and animals need in order to be healthy. What's most important about this is that plants do get their nutrients from the soil, and animals eat the plants to obtain their nutrients. So what you should recognize is that your diet needs to contain a variety of foods in order to supply all of the essential elements. Plants, as well as people, need a so-called balanced diet, and plants need to get their nutrients from the soil. Sometimes these nutrients need to be supplemented in the form of fertilizers, but all of the elements that plants take in can be passed on to animals who eat them.
Now let's hear from someone whose career is all about providing us with nutrients.
Welcome, everybody, to this video by the Nutrients for Life Foundation. My name is Rick Phillips. We are thrilled today to be talking to Chef Michael Thrash, who lives in Seminole, Florida, and is the corporate executive chef for a company called the Simplot Company. He's also the chef instructor at the Art Institute of Tampa.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm originally from Rochester, New York area, and I was lucky enough that I knew I wanted to be a chef as a young child. And I had my sights set on it once I found out you can actually get paid to play with food and have some fun and cook and do different things. So I have a very diverse background in my career. Currently, fast forward to today, my job is with the Simplot Company. And Simplot has been around for quite a long time, started by Simplot and was started as an agribusiness and started as farming. And I know that he got more into the food side when he started getting interested in processing certain foods and being more inquisitive on the ways that they can be changed to then get to the more masses. And I believe it was onions was one of his first things that he dabbled in, was learning to dehydrate onions and how to process those. He had a contract with the government during war times to kind of supplement and help some of the soldiers with these food products. And I know we're mostly known for potatoes is probably our main thing. We're known for fries. We're known for potatoes. Best potatoes in the world are grown in Idaho region. In my role, I'm one of the 4 corporate executive chefs in North America. And I have the Eastern North America, so Canada, Eastern United States, and I dabble in the islands whenever needed and helped. So what my main role is to take our products, to take our food, and to train, educate, to help our customers, help businesses, help utilize them, not just from a Simplot product standpoint, but also from a total business standpoint. And we can get more into that later as well, where from restaurants to hospitals to nursing homes to universities to stadiums, theme parks, I mean, you name it, they use our products, and I can help them not only apply them to their current menus, but also help them with their management and their costing and all my background and things like that. So,
Can you talk about your career path, your education path, and how you got to be where you are today, kind of your at the pinnacle of your career at this point?
when I was a child, I remember just I used the term, my nose was at the stove, and I was always interested in what my mother was doing and what she was preparing, cooking for dinner. I looked forward to it a lot. And I used to love going grocery shopping with her, even as a young kid. And I took a very big self-education role at that point, even as a young child. The Food Network just came out when I was a young kid in the early 90s. But even before that, I was watching PBS reruns of Julia Child, Martin Yen, Graham Kerr, on Saturday, Sunday mornings. And I was watching those shows instead of watching cartoons. And it's kind of an odd thing for a kid. And I started in the industry. I got lucky enough to get employed kind of dishwasher and a busboy as a young kid on the weekends, Friday, Saturday night type thing. And I remember I got paid like $6 an hour, 2 grilled chicken sandwiches and all the Coca-Cola I could drink. So I was like, as a 14-year-old kid, that's a good deal, And I was doing everything, and I was excited to go there. And I started VOTEC classes in high school. So my guidance counselor made it apparent that we could go to this other school half days, my junior and senior year of high school, for strictly culinary arts classes. And it was a kind of a head start into career development. And I started going there, and I was very successful, and I was very energized. I found kind of my niche thing. and in school. And, I was an average student, high C's, low B's and stuff like that in the traditional classes, but I excelled in this. And I was getting A+ in this school, in these classes. I was time to decide what I wanted to do after graduating high school. And I looked at colleges and universities and other ways to expand my education. And I chose Johnson Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island. They offered a bachelor's degree in culinary arts. At the time, it was the only school in the world, I think, that offered a BAS degree in culinary arts. So I stayed on for 4 years and I achieved that degree as well. And every summer I strategically worked somewhere different. I moved around different states, working for Walt Disney World, going back to New York and working at the Rochester Yacht Club, to eventually expanding out to country clubs and high-end hotels in Beverly Hills, California. I did that to expand my self-education. You mentioned that word before when I was a kid, self-education. That's how I got along much quicker to the unbelievable job I have today.
So you've been following your passion throughout your experience in your career. What do you like most about what you do?
The thing that I probably enjoy the most about what I do for a living are two things. One being I get to feed the world. I get to feed people. I get to nourish them, give them energy. Human beings share few things in common. One being we need to breathe air, we need water, and we need to eat food, we need shelter, and we need to stay healthy. So if I can be a large contributor to one of those, feeding the world, then I wake up every day and I'm very proud of that. It drives me to work hard and to do better for people. The other part of it is a lot of professions can't say this statement I'm about to say. No matter how old I am or how long I do this for, I will never know everything about what I do for a living. When you think of the amount of food, the amount of combinations, the amount of cultures, the amount of history attached to food, the amount of cooking methods, and the amount of evolving change and development of this topic and of these things, I will never know everything about it. And that is wonderful to know because I will never get bored doing it. I have never been bored doing it. And I always am seeking more information about it and learn and trying to get better.
So I'm sure there's students out there listening who really enjoy the culinary arts. And if you were to talk to these students today who are interested in the culinary world, what advice would you give? And the question I've had, is it culinary arts or is it culinary science? Is what you do art or science or somewhere in between or both?
Very good question. I'll start with the second part of that question. Is it art? Is it science? Somewhere in between? It's not even in between. It's even more than art and science. It involves everything that the students are learning currently in school, what they will learn in school, and what they think about every day. So everything from math, science, history, business, economics. You name it. It's all incorporated. Art, entertainment. It's all incorporated into this world because the food service industry and food is a part of the whole hospitality industry. And that's probably the biggest umbrella that we work under. Hospitality. So you think of hospitality from hotels, attractions, theme parks, sporting events, concert venues, restaurants. There's food attached to colleges and hospitals and roadside rest stops. Trains, planes, cruise ships. You name it. Their hospitality industry is one of the largest industries in the world. If you're looking to get into this as a profession, I can't stress enough how wonderful and how rewarding it can be and how to look at it from an outsider's perspective before you get in. So going back to what I said about the hospitality industry, if you are interested in being a chef, you're interested in food, culinary arts, I always urge them to try it out. One of the best ways to do that is to get a job at a young age. Get a job at a fast food restaurant, get a job at a restaurant, get a job at an ice cream stand, whatever it may be, to try it out first, to see if the daily attributes of that job position, daily life is something you would be attracted to, that energy, serving others, solving problems, doing things like that. Then from there, attend college. You can go from there and go to culinary school. Then the beauty of it is there's a bigger escape route than most degrees and most education routes. Because that hospitality industry umbrella is so big, you can get out of the kitchen and go to the front of the house, as we call it, and be a manager, a restaurant manager. You can go into the world of beverages. You can go into the world of entertainment, hotels, things I mentioned before. You can change your direction. You can be a food critic, a food stylist. You can be a food writer. You can be a journalist. You can be many other things that are still in this world that still fall under the food, culinary, art, science attributes that you mentioned.
Key nutrients, of course, are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Food science, NPK, every plant has to have those nutrients. How does all of that stuff relate to what you do on a day-to-day basis? We talk a lot about managing the food process from the farm to the fork. Obviously, you're the fork end of it, but how does that the rest of that apply to what you do on a daily basis?
That's a very, very good question. So everything that's physical comes from somewhere, and we don't stop and appreciate the food supply chain that we have, not only in the United States, but also in the world. And we don't stop and think about where do these things come from and what amount of energy, what amount of science, what amount of thought, and what amount of resourcefulness it takes in order to create these plants, these animals, these whatever it is that we're going to consume or turn into something else. So from fertilizers to natural additives to all these different things that it takes for food to grow naturally to achieve a better harvest next year.
I'd like you to pretend that you're the principal of the day for all these students that are in various schools across the country. What piece of advice would you give to them, knowing what you know now and knowing that you were there once? What would you like to say to these students and their teachers?
Really make a hard decision on what you're passionate about in life, and really do research. You're going to come to a crossroads very shortly as a high school student where you have to choose your life path after 12th grade, right? When you turn 18 years old, and you have to choose, am I going to go to college? Am I going to go to the workforce? Am I going to join the military? Am I going to do all these different choices that you may have? And they're all great choices, but decide now what you want to do, and then do everything you possibly can in your own power to prepare yourself for that choice. So like I mentioned before, I started working in the industry that I wanted to work in when I was younger. That got me a head start. That got me more assurance of the characteristics that I'm going to need to have in order to be successful in that. Also, make sure that there are jobs in that industry you're going to choose, in that career path. And lastly, if you don't know yet, that's still okay. But I would still encourage you to do as much as you can to pick a path and stay on that path. It's easy to get off the path. It's easy to fall to the excuses. It's easy to fall into the pressures that the easy way out is just to quit or just to stop. I cannot assure you enough, when you stick with it, you can be successful and as happy and self-gratifying as I am now. And I stuck with it, and I went through a lot of tough times and a lot of sacrifice to get here. But that's temporary. That's fixable.
Chef Michael Thrash, we are so grateful that you would take time out of what must be a very, very busy, crazy schedule for you to speak to us today. Chef Michael Thrash, Chief Executive Chef for the J.R. Simplot Company and Chief Instructor of the Art Institute of Tampa. Lives in Seminole, Florida. Thank you, Chef Thrash, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. And I wish everybody that has been watching this the best of luck. Enjoy what you eat, and live every moment of your life like it truly is the last. And just enjoy everything in the small things. I can't stress that enough. And you'll be a very, very, very happy person.